Hey y'all, we're about to get started. So thank you guys so much for coming out today. The weather's been beautiful, the energy's been beautiful. We're gonna get started and do our artist talk. So the artist talk is Art Chose Me, the ebbs and flows of being a full-time artist. We all know that being an artist, even if it's not full-time, is difficult, and then being a full-time artist and dedicating your life to this it comes with a lot, we could imagine. So I'm really excited to hear from these amazing artists, and moderating our conversation is Anastasia Malone. So Anastasia Malone is a multidisciplinary artist from the southeast of Cleveland. Her deep love of art is shown through her personal art practice as a printmaker, collage artist, and conversation facilitator. Her work is inspired by her own family's history and her commitment to preserving Black history. So let's give it up for Anastasia. Woo!
Hey y'all, how y'all doing today? I'm fab. So we have Jennifer Price and Isaiah here. And I just wanted to start this off with asking how y'all doing today, how y'all feeling?
Great.
I'm doing great. Around a
Alright.
bunch of beautiful people, a bunch of creatives, so I'm right at home.
Understood. So I wanted to get this conversation started off with just asking, what inspired you to pursue art?
I would say quickly what inspired me to pursue art was just, it felt like it made sense. It's sort of like probably how any other career a person might know they want to be an accountant or they want to do something. I feel like I had to peel back some layers to get there, but that ultimately being an artist is what made sense for me.
Okay. Isaiah?
Hello, everyone. My name is Isaiah, also known as Star Being. Some of you guys may know me by that name. What has inspired me to pursue art is, as someone who's, like from a young age, I've always been drawn to colorful paintings and portraits and comic books and even anime. I've always just loved how, people were able to envision something in their mind and then put it into practice. When it may be a comic book or a cartoon or even illustrations in a book. And I just was always fascinated by the multitude of colors and things like that. So for me, I just started sketching, and I knew I had other people, in my class who were even better than me at sketching. So just seeing that in real life, I just had a fascination from a young age into that process. So just snowballed into a lifetime of creating artwork.
I remember when we first had our first conversation, I asked you, like, what was you doing? Like, you drew the hardest Goku in the class. Like, that's what you was on. That's what you was doing. And I remember you saying something about it was another person in your class who could do it better than you. And you was like, nah, I gotta go harder. I gotta go for it. So, like, did you always know that art was gonna be your thing?
I'll start. I always knew that art would be a big part of my life. In art class, I was always kind of like one of the top artists, and would really take it seriously because I got a lot of praise from my art teacher, and to the point where there was a school play that required like kind of a backdrop and set design and all that stuff, and I was just so art class was one of my favorite classes, so I was like one of the most active members in doing the set design for that, and being just kind of like getting that the gratification of like positive reinforcement mixed with seeing my work on stage. I was able to it just really made art seem like it'd be something like a part of my life. I didn't know to what degree, because a lot of people tell you you can't make art your career. You're gonna be a struggling artist and things like that. So for me, it was just I knew it would be a part of my life, but I didn't know how far I would take it until later on in life.
I agree with that. I always knew art would be a part of my life, but the same. I did other jobs, other careers, and I still would create things. I would make gifts for people. Then I started making stuff and having like home shows and inviting people to come and buy stuff. I made jewelry. I had a little like not little. I mean, I had a cookie business for a minute where I was selling stuff. So I knew creativity would be a part of my life, and it was almost like I couldn't escape it. Like when I think about it now, I never didn't do art or creative things. And then, like you said, it just sort of snowballed into it was like I just continued to create, continued to share it, continued to invite people over to buy it or see it. And then the internet became a vehicle to share work, and that helped me to expand it to the point that I was like, this could be real life, you know, and it got to the point where I felt like I had 2 or 3 jobs, you know, and I was like, I'm gonna have to choose something, and at that point it was like I chose art because that was the thing that fueled me.
This is a perfect segue into my next question, and it is like, what was it like taking that first leap of faith? Because I remember the story you told me. You saw work and you said, mm-mm. So tell that story.
I will tell this story. And I just hope, I mean, forgiveness, I feel like I've been forgiven from my past job. So what happened is essentially, so yeah, it is the perfect segue. I knew that it was time to make a choice. It just happened to be like the first day I was supposed to go back to work from the summer, and I lived across the street from my job. So I got dressed, I walked out the front door, and then I turned around, and I walked back in the house, and I sent an email to my principal to say that I wasn't coming back. And it was pretty like unceremonious, but he knew that I was an artist, and he knew my creative world, and so he's very encouraging. I still feel guilty about that, partially because I thought we had 2 weeks before the kids came back. I was a preschool and first or third grade Montessori teacher, but it turned out they were coming back in a week, so they had a week to find somebody, but they did. It all worked out, and we're all still friends, and I donate art for their gala every year, so that's my penance.
Do you remember like the feeling of putting that down and picking this up for the first time?
Yeah, honestly, it just felt natural. It felt like exactly what I needed to do. It felt a little scary, but it also, I think in some ways, for me at least at that point, it was scarier to think that I would walk away from art in order to continue to do something that felt so far away from my soul's truth, you know? So it just felt natural in a way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isaiah?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes, absolutely. What was it like taking that first leap of faith? Really deciding.
For me, taking that first leap of faith took a lot of thought, a lot of consideration, just trying to really understand and grasp the full weight of being responsible for all of your income on your own. Nobody's writing your schedule. Nobody's telling you when to show up. So it was one of those things where I had to, you know, lean on for advice, people who I looked up to in my life as artists and creatives and business owners. So I would ask them questions like, you know, like what does it take? You know, how much work do I need to put in? What advice would you give me to do something like this? And you know, after months of consideration and like really hating my job at the time.
What were you doing?
I was a bartender.
Okay.
So I didn't really hate it. Like I love, you know, kind of being like the vibe supplier, giving people, you know, what they want to keep the vibes going when it comes to bartending. So like I enjoyed it, but you know, that comes with a cost. Like, you know, staying up late, being around alcohol, being around drunk people. It wasn't really me. but it was as someone who likes, can be a social person at times.
Understood, yeah.
It was cool, but after a point, it was like, this isn't my life. Like, I need to really hone on something that fulfills me. And so then I just wanted to, I wanted to wake up in the morning early, and I wanted to go in the studio, and I wanted to make artwork that resonates with me and not feel like I'm just forced to make time whenever I can wake up or have the energy to do it. So for me, it was just like, all right, I'm really about to lean into this. I'm going to take this leap of faith. I was very scared, and I think that's a natural feeling before you jump into something that's like, you've never been there before. It's uncharted territory for your personal journey. But as I came to learn over time, that the more that you trust the process, the more that you invest in the things that you believe in, and the more that you have faith, and you could be a God-fearing person or someone who has some kind of faith in the Most High, that really can help that journey. So for me, it was just like I had faith, and I knew that within trusting the process and putting my energy and my intentions into the things that I wanted to do, it would pay off. So the first month, I was like, all right, I put a bunch of my art together. I was making art still, even while I was bartending, but it wasn't consistent enough to go full time. So I got some of my favorite pieces and I put them on a T-shirt. And then I was like, I got to make rent by the end of the month. So I only had not a whole lot of money. So a good amount of that money I put into putting my art on the T-shirt.
And you had to hustle.
And then I was just like, all right, I got to sell these now.
Yep.
So, and then after that, I advertised it. I was talking to all my friends. I'm like, I'm buy my stuff. Let's get it. And from there, it just started to, started off a little slow. I was like, all right,
okay.
Let me let's see how this goes. If not, I'm gonna be calling my mom, my granddad, or somebody to help me out, pay rent. But no, it's just like trusting the process. It finally, that last week before rent was due, I was over what I needed to make rent. So, yeah, just trusting that process and continuing to pour into the things that you believe in. I truly believe it'll pay off for sure.
Okay. Actually, do you remember your first project from once you were able to make rent, you really committed to it? What was your first project?
My first project was I was with an art coalition called Lab Cab in Cleveland, and so we had a studio space, and this was before I went full time. So I was already surrounding myself with people who are creatives and artists, and I think that's also a very important component to being successful in whatever you do, is surrounding yourself with like-minded people who
Community.
are at your level or above your level, who can kind of help push you forward and motivate you to stay, consistent. And with that, I was around these people, and then we were like, yo, let's sign up for some of these grants and kind of like these outreach programs going on. So my first one was I was working with Lab Cab in Cleveland, and it was just like a mural project. So we did a mural project for, it wasn't anything special. It was just like a logo for this business called Smartland. They wanted their logo on the side of like a 20-story building.
We've all seen them.
So yeah. So I was like, for me, that's very exciting to even be able to do something like that. Even though it wasn't like my personal artwork, I'm still getting that experience. And I'm working alongside one of my close homies, Chad Fedorovich at the time, and we're still my homie. And we rented a lift, a boom lift, which was also very scary because, I'm not afraid of heights, but when you're working in those kind of conditions, you're not used to it. So just getting used to the unexpected and the ebbs and flows and the literal sway of the wind. So I feel like another part of it is just being able to adapt to new things and being open to adapting. So for me, just I think just being open to trying new things for sure.
So your first project, your first contracting project was with Smartland.
Yeah, with smart language.
Okay. What about you, Jennifer?
Well, I had a series that I was working on at the time called the 100 Angel series. So I really didn't, I just continued selling that work, letting people know that I was full-time, doing like print sales and stuff like that to sort of feel a little bit more steady. But I just sort of continued to promote it, and I feel like it was already had a lot of momentum. And one of the I painted an angel for this show, so it was that kind of style, and it spoke to different social justice issues, and it resonated with people. So it was like I just continued with the momentum that was already going.
What does your project, no, not your project, what does your process look like when you are getting commissioned or contracted for a job?
Ooh, that's a good question. I do mostly individual commissions, or like small businesses have, like, mostly like around the country, not necessarily locally, because the internet was how I found people. Maybe like a piece that people want for their business that they could like then sell stickers and stuff like that. I would say it's sort of like you said about flow. It sort of evolves as I continue to do more. Mostly, I think it's just making sure the terms are clear and the expectations are clear. Is that what you mean? Because there's like the
honestly, yes and no. I
Yeah.
just, like, from your own personal way on
I
how
see
you
what you're
pursue it, and
saying.
also how you interpret what you are asked.
Typically, I do very few commissions at this point, and I think mostly it's just that it has to, like, if I feel like I'm in a flow or in a momentum around the ideas and the work I feel like needs to come out, then I might not take a commission, because I feel like the attention I give it is going to be split in a way that doesn't feel like I can do both. But there's times when I am reached out to about a commission, and it just feels like, yes, the time, the request, my ability to fulfill that all lines up, and those are the ones that I take, mostly because I think that they align with the process, that like that person has seen my work, they understand my work, and they want an experience of that work. You know, because sometimes people will see your work and then be like, can you do this? And it's like, no, never. I've never done that. And there was a time where I'd be like, yeah, I'll try it. And I realized, like, that is not,
It's not your whole
it
thing.
doesn't, exactly. Like, that's somebody else's opportunity. So, yeah, and from then there's just making sure the terms are as clear as possible. Just being prepared for a lot of grace, you know, in terms of communication. And honestly, from my perspective, being really honest with people, that one, I can handle feedback, because sometimes people are afraid to say what they really think, feel, or need, and it can create like tension that's not necessary. And also that, you know, if I'm communicating clearly, it's because I want to make sure that we're on the same page, not because, you know,
Yeah, I
there's,
understand.
yeah, just making sure everything's clear, the contracts are clear, the contracts exist, all that kind of stuff.
Yes. What about you, Isaiah? Do you want me to repeat the question for you? What does your process look like when you're getting contracted in commission projects?
I think it changes from project to project, but a lot of times for me, it's like it's deciding what you want to work on, what you want to put your energy into, and then once those grounds are cleared, I think it's good to really just kind of understand and like do a little bit of background research on the community, the environment, or the brand of where your mural will be. That way, you can kind of have a base place to start from, so that like your artwork can be as meaningful as possible, not only to you, but to the people who see it every day, who live there, and they can appreciate it. You don't want to put up artwork that's disrespectful, that's not in alignment with the area or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think it's important to kind of do a little bit of research, especially when it comes to murals, because I'm
You're
mainly a mural artist.
Yeah.
But I do canvas work, I do commission work, and all that stuff. So if I'm making work specifically for me, that's a whole different process.
That takes me to my next question.
Okay.
What is the process for your personal work?
Okay, my personal work, I'm a little bit of a political person. So for me, it comes from a place of like, when I'm going to create a piece, what am I feeling when it pertains to the Black community? What do I feel when it pertains to relationships within the Black community or other communities? What am I feeling in the political climate around the world? Like, what's happening? How am I feeling? So I take that feeling and then I decide, okay, what colors represent these feelings? And I use those colors and that feeling and that idea to kind of start to shape what I want to make. And then I'll start to I'll do maybe some research into like the history of that feeling. If it's political, if it's personal, then I'll go into like the background of where that derived from, that feeling. And then I'll start to kind of put together an idea, maybe from actual like memory or like images online. Like I'll like look up like, okay, let's say if it's something that has to do with a certain point in time, I'll go to that point in time and like see what the people wore, what they looked like, what they drove, you know, things like that, just so it feels authentic and real. And then if it's something that's more so just an idea, then I'll just run with the colors and the idea and just like piece it together from there. Maybe like stitch together like a bunch of, I'm kind of like a little bit of a, like my artwork can kind of look like a little bit of a mosaic of stuff or a collage in a way.
Yeah.
And then other times it can just be a whole cohesive scene. So I feel like my style, as it always is continuously evolving, I think a lot of the time it's a wide range of ideas. So it's like, for me, I feel like personally as an artist, I'm always growing and trying to figure out what my style is.
And what your process is.
But at the same time, I think a lot of people can recognize my style too. So, yeah. So it's just one of those things where it's like, I'm always in my head, trying to like beating down the idea, trying to figure out like, what can I do to make this artwork better? What can I do to really convey my style and like make my style more recognizable? Because I feel like we live in a world where there's a ton of artists, a ton of styles, and now we have to contend with AI. So it's like just figuring out like, how can, you know, I rise above all of that.
Keep it authentic.
Keep it authentic, yeah.
How could you speak to that, to your process with your personal work, Jennifer?
It actually sounds really similar. It's kind of cool to hear that. Like, I tend to have like a feeling or an idea. I do speak a lot to politics. Liberation is really important to me. It's often through the lens of Black women and girls, and like, for me, it's both wanting to tell my story or experience as a Black woman and formerly a Black girl in a more whole way, because I feel like sometimes I feel like there's just a reality that our like we're not heard, or I don't feel understood as a whole person, and so I feel sort of motivated to always put that work out there. Memories are really big for me, and so like when I do a piece that is reflective of a point in time, I research like, what did the kitchen look like in 70 whatever, 1970 whatever, or like what clothes do I remember a person wearing, and then looking up to see if that's accurate. If there's a quote that I want to use, like for my angels pieces, so I might remember the quote, but I look for the context to try my best not to misuse somebody else's words or concepts. Oh, sorry. Try not to misuse somebody else's words or concepts when I do quotes. And sometimes I like to be scared a little bit. Like if I think it's gonna make people feel a way, then I feel like I need to lean into that. I feel like if my parents are gonna be like, look at me sideways, I need to lean into that. You know, like where am I being good and where am I letting myself be challenged is important to me. And sometimes I choose not to be challenged more than I should, and so then I have to confront that within myself. So I feel like my process is like very similar. It feels like spiritual, emotional. I feel like I learn about myself in the process too, where I just learn stuff about just being me in the world. So, yeah.
And within your own work, and then also with the work that you get paid to do you ever experience like art fatigue? Where you're like, yeah, I need to put this down and pick something else up.
Yeah.
What do you do like to like shake that off so you can get back to it?
Yeah.
I think everybody,
Yes.
feels fatigue in a lot of different ways. But when it comes to like creating artwork, my personal experience is like fatigue happens all the time. You get worn out, especially if you're moving your body, to any capacity where it's like all day long. You're painting, you're standing up on your feet, you're picking up, buckets of paint, you're climbing ladders, whatever you're doing to make your artwork, bringing it to reality. You can be physically fatigued, and you can also be mentally fatigued. And then if you're really pouring your heart into it, you can be spiritually fatigued. So I feel like I think it's time to, you have to take time to rest. And I think rest is okay. It's not a bad thing to switch it up, maybe focus on something else in your life, like cooking, pick up a hobby, if it's exercise, if it's yoga, if it's, cooking, like I said cooking already, but if it's anything, like I feel like it's important to not overdo it to the point where your artwork is starting to suffer from it.
Yeah.
But I also think it's really important to not forget about that you're an artist. So don't forget that you're put here to do something important and tell a story and help other people tell stories and just kind of uplift, the vibration of this earth. So I think it's definitely important to take that rest, but then remind yourself like I'm that person, I'm that guy, I'm that girl. Like I'm here to do something. So you have to step up to the plate and do that. But when dealing with fatigue, it's definitely important to rest. That's my advice right there.
How would you speak to that, Jennifer?
I agree. Like, rest is so huge. I think that there was a point when I thought, especially when I went full time, I think both I felt like I had to prove myself, which is not untrue. And then, like, prove myself in the sense of, like, that I could make the money that I needed to make to survive. And then I also felt like I was so excited to do art full time that art was my job, my hobby. It was everything. And I realized like I needed to be a whole person. And I had been doing it for years, but it was like after work and all that kind of stuff. So I just was like so saturated with art. And I agree, like rest is important. I had to raise my prices because I think sometimes fatigue comes from like hustling, trying to make money because you're not charging enough for your work.
Yeah.
I also started doing more like play. Like I do smaller pieces that just let me play, but I also think I think they're beautiful, and so I offer them to people, for prices that might be easier to acquire, but allow me not to feel pressure to create. I take dance classes now. That was like my birthday gift to myself this year, and it's been art for me. I'm so in my head. I like to do art by myself. I don't always even listen to music because I get distracted, or I'm looking at my phone for images. And so dance class has gotten me out of my head and into community with other people. It's another experience to like I don't have to be good at it. I don't have to do anything but I try to be good at it. But I just show up and learn and let myself, because to your point about like when you're a full-time artist, you're responsible for so much that it's like I don't always feel like I have room to make many mistakes. I make a ton of them. I just don't feel like I have room for it. Whereas dance allows me to make mistakes without feeling like there's some consequence or something I'm going to lose at the end of it.
Okay. when you talked about like rates, how do you determine rates, and how do you frame that conversation? I remember a friend was telling me about a time she went to go see Derek Adams speak, and he said that it at least has to pay a bill. A piece has to be able to pay a bill. How, do you go that same way, or how do you determine that?
I'll start. I think when starting out as an artist, you don't have a whole lot of pull, so you really have to kind of grind through it a little bit. You want people to see your work, you want to get it out there. Unless you're just plugged in, you know the right people automatically, like you just are in the right place at the right time and things just work out for you perfectly, which is very rare, but it can happen. I think it's important to definitely like get your work out there. Do certain things that you don't, it's not going to be the end game, but like I would say within maybe your circle, like, you know, if you know someone who has a restaurant or a salon or whatever, be like, hey, I love your shop. I love what you got going on here. I can amplify it. I can see artwork on these walls of this coffee shop, whatever. Just get your work out there as much as possible. And then once you have somewhat of a following, if it's social media or if it's on your website or whatever, then you can start charging. Be like, okay, you know, now it's time, like, you know, to make money, to get my, you know, pay my bills and things like that. And this is just my advice. I feel like everybody has a different recipe, and everybody can do it however, whatever works for them. But I think that once you kind of have enough support around you, then you can start to like, you have to charge.
Yeah.
And I think you have, like for me, when I started out, I was using square footage for everything, but that can also vary because things can be very complex and things can be very simple. So what I would do is I would tell my client, okay, this is the going rate. This is what I would typically charge for something like this. And then it would definitely want to start high. And then you could be like, and then you find out kind of where they're at. And then you'd be like, but I'm willing to work with you. And then they can meet you in the middle. So I think that's, like for me, that works pretty well right now, and it's able to pay bills, because it's like, I'm definitely not gonna go below a point, and to your point before, like, you gotta pay your bills. So I'm not gonna be charging for something that I'm gonna be spending weeks, months on, and not be able to pay my bills doing it. So yeah, it's definitely important to make sure you have a plan of what you need to do to pay your bills, but at the same time, making sure that like you're not ripping anybody off, because your name means a lot. Like, if you rip off one person, they're gonna tell 10 people. So you wanna make sure that your work is valued at the price that you're selling it for, but at the same time, you're continuously like pouring into it. Like, you're getting the tools, you're making sure it's clean, and that brings me to the point of like prep. Like, you need to take your artwork seriously. You can't just throw something up and think that like it's gonna fly because you saw somebody else do it. Like, you really have to feel confident in your art, and I think that resonates when they speak to you and they hear you talk about your art, and then they see it on their walls and they see how other people feel about it. So I think it's important to take your artwork seriously, take it like a job. Like, you know, I'm gonna make sure I clean up after myself. I'm gonna make sure I leave when I'm leaving for the day. I put everything where it belongs. I'm taping off everything. It's gonna cost you a little bit more money, but you have to factor that into the price. Which brings me to another point. Make sure you know everything that you need to make the piece, and, you know, itemize everything. Like, I'm gonna need paint, I'm gonna need tape, I'm gonna need tarps, I'm gonna need buckets, brushes. Factor everything in, and then on top of that, if you need you might already have some of that stuff, but things wear out. So you have to factor in like getting new things too.
Really paying attention to the details of what you need so you can charge accordingly.
Exactly.
What about you, Jennifer? How do you determine your rates? How do you maneuver the conversation around it?
So I agree. Like, I started off just like trying to get my work out there. I feel like I'm still learning and I still have no idea, but I also sort of think about like larger pieces or pieces that I want to show or like commissions, then I have like a little math formula that I found somewhere online, and it felt like it worked for me, where before I would sell work and I wanted to weep because I was like, I just worked so hard on that and I can't really do anything with it. Now if I sell like those pieces, I feel good about it. I can pay bills with it, and I don't have to crank out original work that's, you know, like a larger size, or even like my little 10 by 10s. Like I feel like I can do it in a way that feels like I'm a human, not a machine. So that's kind of how I do those. The smaller pieces, I really just think about like, I try to think about like if I have a table today, or if I'm at a market or something like that. Yeah, like probably the same. Like they're usually like $15 or $20. There's something that give me a chance to play. If I sell a piece for $20, I get, like one piece, I could buy 2 more pads of paper and make 100. You know, so like it almost feels like a house flipper. You know, you're like, I can flip this art into more supplies, or other opportunities and stuff like that. So for those, I think more about like what would be easy and comfortable for people to say yes to experience my work, or have something that they can like still go to other tables and feel like they've had a good experience. So it's nothing like,
So they can get yours and somebody else's and somebody else's.
yeah, and that I feel good about it at the end of the day. So,
Okay. And how do you work with the administrative piece of of like, do you have somebody, or is it just DIY?
it is. It's still DIY for me. Thank goodness for the internet. I mentioned an accountant. Like some people want to be accountants, and I do like math. I do like numbers, and so like I do procrastinate, but I enjoy like just having a moment to just like calculate things and see where I'm at. So
Does that bring you peace?
it does. And that doesn't mean that I'm not at peace for a long time because I'm like putting it off. But then when I get into it, I can like hyper focus and just be in my happy place with a pencil and, you know, like old school stuff. But you know, but the other administrative part, so it's the accounting, the taxes, but there's also like the internet and the marketing and the website. My website is like probably has tumbleweeds. Like I do not like going there, but I do go there every now and again to make sure I've updated things. I add new pieces when I'm excited about them. I've been enjoying like bringing some things locally that are not on my website, so sometimes I neglect it a little bit for that part. And for marketing, I just, you know, I think it's a Bonnie Raitt song that says, I can't make you love me if you don't. So I don't think too much about it. I just tell people that my work exists. I'm excited about it. Here it is. And that has made that piece a lot easier for me, just to respect people and let them know what exists and let them make a choice if they're interested in it. And so that's my marketing approach that makes that administrative piece work.
What about you, Isaiah? What's your administrative process?
I think as artists, a lot of us, we're just good at making art. But like I've never been super fine-tuned on the administrative process, and I think it is a good idea to have support in that area, especially if it's already in your group, your circle. Pull in people, pull in friends. You know, we were all surrounded by people with many talents. Some are, you know, really good at, you know, grants. Some people are really good at math, like what you were saying earlier. But like, I'm not good at any of those things. I like making art, but I think it's really cool. It's really important to either pull in people in your circle who can help, and you know, you could put money in each other's pockets, as well as maybe just, you know, we have a lot of other tools online. If it's like maybe putting a little bit money into like Skillshare or Patreon and just learning those things on your own. I don't necessarily think that you have to like shell out a bunch of money to figure out how to be better in the administrative area of things. Some people like to use AI. You can use that when it comes to emails and things like that. But for me, it's just like I'm definitely a DIYer. I figure it out as I go. I let my art speak for itself mainly. It's helped me, and like I was saying before, trusting the process. I'm very big on trusting the process. And if somebody really wants to work with me, then they will probably look past the fact that I'm not super efficient in other areas, but they love my artwork. But if you're able to sharpen those tools in other areas, I think my advice would definitely be, get better on the administrative side of things. Yeah.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question. It's a fun question. The next two are fun. They're not like as daunting as admin and rates. But if you could go back to the beginning of when you decided to take this leap of faith, what advice would you give yourself? Or what would you just tell yourself?
It's gonna be all right. Like I really wouldn't. I don't think I would want to really change anything. I'm happy with how things have turned out. I think that the people in my life were put in my life for a reason, to help me along the way. And that's back to my point of just like surrounding yourself with good people. Like is one of the biggest things. And luckily I've always kind of known that too. So just surrounding yourself with good people who believe in you and who's not trying to like trip you, while you're walking past. So yeah, I think it's people who want to kind of help, pull you up. And for me, I guess I'll just tell myself, get rid of the haters and bring in the people who's really there for you.
All right. Jennifer?
That's really beautiful. I agree. Like, it's going to be all right. And also, like, what would I tell myself? I talk to myself all the time. So I think I would tell myself now, like, what I tell myself now, like, even on difficult days, be as much as you can in that moment, in that day. You're not going to get that day back. You're not going to get that moment back. And years, like days, weeks, months, it goes all so fast. And so, like, just be in that moment. I think that even like everything is information. You learn so much about how to move forward. And I think just to trust the process and trust yourself. I always felt like I worked for other people. Like, I'm a solid employee. I could be a solid employee for myself.
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
So this is another fun question, so get ready. Where do you see yourself in 10 years artistically? What mediums do you want to explore? What do you want to make? What do you want to do? Where do you see you?
In 10 years, I want to...
Or like within the next 10 years.
Okay. Within the next 10 years, I'm definitely going to have a fashion brand.
All right.
I'm going to have a furniture art series.
Okay.
I've already made some furniture, and it's fun for me. I want to be like basically getting more into like 3D art in spaces and making art functional, where you can use it as a centerpiece that's actually you could actually sit at. You can put stuff on, and then on top of that, I just want to be a more well-rounded artist, and like really be consistent in my work and continuing to raise the bar as an artist to the point where I'm already at that point where I'm always like, whatever I work on, I'm like, I can really do this. Like I'm doing what I'm setting out to do, but I think I could definitely sharpen my tools and make sure that the work that I'm making is more meaningful and it doesn't have to just be made for money. Like I want to be at a point where I'm making artwork that's really coming from me and not just because I need to pay bills. So that's probably the biggest part right there.
I feel like at this point, like we have so many similar thoughts in terms of like the future. And probably in the next 5 to 7 years. I want to write like a romantic comedy that I could turn into a movie. I don't care how big. I mean, I kind of care, but you know, like it doesn't matter how big it is, as long as I would love to see it come into fruition. And then I want to start a band with kids songs. I've written the kids songs.
What kind of music would this band be playing? Like, would it be like punk children's songs? Would it be funk children's songs? What would it be?
I love funk children's songs. Well, a little punk, a little bit of rap. Believe it or not, I've written some, and I like sing them in my head. I've written a bunch of children's books, and so that would be just like a fun side quest. And then maybe, I would do that for a few years, and then in 10 years the same. I just want to be like somewhere relaxed, painting beautiful pieces that speak to people, and just calm. I want to be calm, happy, and painting in an airy, bright space, and maybe traveling the world.
All right, fabulous. So everybody, please give a round of applause for Isaiah and Jennifer. They did a lovely job. Thank you so much for conversing with me.
Thank you.
And thank you all for watching us chit-chat.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you all being here and listening to us talk about our process. Again, I'm Isaiah Williams. I go by Star Being.
I'm Jennifer Price, and on Instagram, I'm Jennifer Michelle Price.
She also has a table up in there.
I do.
Buy something, please.
Thank you.